Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Podcast. Today is Wednesday, November 20th, 2019. Today I'm going to recap yesterday's college basketball, NBA, NHL, and college football games. Look ahead to tonight's game. It's in each sport. NFL power rankings prior to week 12, and my best bet of the day. Okay, we're going to start in college basketball today. We're going to go over the results from yesterday and look ahead to tonight's slate, some upsets, some blowouts, some surprises, and more. Chicago State over Purdue Northwestern, 89-77. Chicago State is now 2-3. Xavier Johnson led them scoring with 18. Morgan State over Region, 88-52. Morgan State's 3-2. Laggio Grandstand had 20 for them. They'll lead them in scoring. Penn State over Bucknell, 98-70. Penn State 4-0. Bucknell 2-3. Lamar Stevens had 27. Andrew Funk had 15. Number 7, Virginia over Vermont, 61-55. A really, really good effort by Vermont. Just fell short. They're 4-1. Virginia's 4-0. Mamadou Diake had 19 for Virginia, and the best player on the court was on the team that lost, and that's Anthony Lamb of Vermont, who had 30. Rhode Island over Nichols, 70-65. Rhode Island 3-1. Nichols 2-3. Fats Russell had 24, and Warith Alate had 17. Davidson over Nevada, 91-71. Davidson 2-2. Nevada 2-3. Kellen Grady had 24. Lindsey Drew had 14. George Mason over Loyola Maryland, 65-61. George Mason 5-0. Loyola 2-3. Jordan Miller had 23. And Andrew Costeca had 20. Liberty over Navy, 55-48. Liberty 5-0. Navy 2-2. Darius McGee had 13. And Cam Davis had 16. Providence over Merrimack, 93-56. Providence 4-1. Merrimack 3-3. Luwane Pipkins had 18. And Michael Dering had 11. NC State over Alcorn State, 87-64. NC State 4-1. Alcorn 1-4. Devin Daniels had 23. And Deshaw Andrews had 17. LSU over UMBC, 77-50. LSU 3-1. UMBC 4-1. Charles Manning Jr. had 16. And Dmitry Spasovic had 14. New Hampshire over Central Connecticut State, 77-63. New Hampshire 3-2. Central Con 0-5. Jaden Martinez had 22 and Miles Baker had 16. Charleston over Marshall, 76-66. Charleston 3-1. Marshall 1-3. Grant Riller had 22 and Tavion Kinsey had 13. Delaware over St. Francis, 79-64. Delaware 6-0. St. Francis, Pennsylvania 2-3. Nate Darling had 28 and Mark Flagg had 13. Albany over New York Potsdam, 78-52. Albany's 2-2, and Cameron Healy led them in scoring with 15. Sacred Heart over Brown, 84-63. Sacred Heart 1-3. Brown 3-1. Kareem Ozier had 28, and Jalen Gainey had 14. Dartmouth over Thomas College, 108-59. Dartmouth is 5-1, and Taurus Samuels had 14 in the win. UNC Wilmington over North Carolina Wesleyan, 113-53. Wilmington's 3-2. Jalen Sims had 26 in the win. FIU over Cleveland State, 107-61. FIU 2-2. Cleveland State 1-4. Devin Andrews had 16, and Hugo Ferreira had 12. Kent State over Purdue Fort Wayne, 75-68. Kent State's 4-0. Purdue Fort Wayne 2-4. Antonio Williams had 16, and Dylan Carl had 15. Bradley over Norfolk State, 69-51. Bradley 3-1. Norfolk 3-2. Koch Bar had 15, and Joe Bryant Jr. had 17. Eastern Kentucky over Alice Loyal College, 99-63. Eastern Kentucky's 3-2. Ty Taylor, the second, had 18. Georgia Southern over Mercer, 98-88. Georgia Southern 3-2. Mercer 3-2. Elijah McCadden had 28, and Ethan Stair had 28. Boston University upset South Carolina, 78-70. Boston University 3-2. South Carolina 3-1. Javante McCoy had 17, and A.J. Lawson had 22. Dayton over Omaha, 93-68. Dayton 3-0. Omaha 2-3. Obi Toppin had 21, and J.T. Gibson had 21. Youngstown State over NC Central, 66-60. Youngstown 2-2. NC Central 1-4. Naz Bahanan had 19, and Randy Miller Jr. had 20. Lafayette over Penn, 86-75. Lafayette 3-2, Penn 2-2. Justin Jaworski had 20, and Devin Goodman had 15. Western Michigan over Alma, 102-56. Western Michigan's 4-1. Rafael Cruz Jr. had 22. Northeastern over Holy Cross, 101-44. Northeastern 3-2. Holy Cross 0-4. Jordan Rowland had 28, and Drew Lauder had 10. Sanford over Manhattan, 75-57. Sanford 3-3. Manhattan 2-1. Josh Sharkey had 17, and Tyke Green had 13. Northwestern State over Louisiana College, 67-60. Northwestern State 2-3. Chudair Bile had 21. Ole Miss over Seattle, 65-52. Ole Miss 4-0. Seattle 2-4. KJ Buffin had 13, and Terrell Brown had 17. The Citadel over Southeast Missouri State, 74-69. Citadel 1-3. Southeast Missouri State 1-2. Kaleon Harris had 20, and DQ Nicholas had 24. Louisiana Tech over Mississippi Valley State, 76-43. Louisiana Tech 3-1. Valley State 0-5. Jacoby Pemberton had 12, and Caleb Hunter had 12. Number 4, Kansas over East Tennessee State, 75-63. Kansas 3-1. East Tennessee State 3-1. Udoka Azubuike had 21, and Bo Hodges had 22. Alabama over Furman, 81-73. Bama 2-2. Furman 4-1. Jaden Shackenfold had 25, and Jordan Lyons had 33. Northern Iowa over Tennessee Martin, 87-67. UNI 5-0. Tennessee Martin 2-3. Trey Burrow had 36, and Parker Stewart had 22. Milwaukee over North Dakota, 79-70. Milwaukee 4-1. North Dakota 1-3. Darius Roy had 21, and Philip Rabraka had 24. North Texas over NC A&T, 80-60. North Texas 2-3. A&T 1-4. Umoja Gibson had 20, and Ronald Jackson had 15. Radford over Northwestern, 67-56. Radford 2-2. Northwestern 1-2. Carlik Jones had 20, and Pete Nance had 16. South Alabama over Spring Hill, 98-72. South Alabama 3-2. Josh Ajayi had 21. Oral Roberts over Rogers State, 73-60. Oral Roberts is 2-3. Kevin O'Banner had 31. Arkansas over Texas Southern, 82-51. Arkansas 4-0. Texas Southern 0-4. Isaiah Joe had 33, and Tyreek Armstrong had 15. Wichita State over Gardner-Webb, 74-52. Wichita 4-0. Gardner-Webb 0-4. Jamarius Burton had 15, and Jaheim Cornwall had 22. Iowa State over Southern Miss, 73-45. Iowa State 3-1. Southern Miss 1-3. Solomon Young had 14, and Boban Jackdonmi had 10. Kansas State over Arkansas Pine Bluff, 62-51. Kansas State 4-0. Pine Bluff 0-4. Xavier Cena 21, and Markel Carter had 22. South Dakota State over North Alabama, 78-73. South Dakota State 4-2. North Alabama 2-3. Brandon Key had 18, and Jamari Blackman had 26. Houston over Rice, 97-89. Houston 2-1. Rice 4-2. Quentin Grimes, the former Kansas guy, 32 for Houston. And Robert Martin for Rice had 23. And Rice had the lead at halftime, too. Murray State over Southern Illinois, 79-66. Murray State 3-1. Southern Illinois 2-4. Tevin Brown had 18, and Aaron Cook had 16. Number 6, Maryland over Fairfield, 74-55. Maryland 4-0. Fairfield 1-4. Jalen Smith had 17, and Landon Taliaferro had 15. Number 8, Gonzaga over Texas Arlington, 72-66. Gonzaga 5-0. UTA 2-3. Ryan Woodbridge had 19, and Jabari Nakris had 16. Grand Canyon over Montana State, 69-56. Grand Canyon 2-3. Montana State 4-2. Lorenzo Jenkins had 20, and Jabril Bello had 17. Weber State over West Coast Baptist, 130-50. Weber State's 1-2, and Jarrett Carding had 23. UTEP over New Mexico, 66-63. UTEP 4-0. New Mexico 4-1. Darrell Edwards had 18, and Jaquan Lyle had 19. Wyoming over Detroit, 76-49. Wyoming 2-3. Detroit 0-3. Tevin Taylor had 22, and Brad Calipari had 13. I wonder if that's John's son. USC over Pepperdine, 91-84. USC 5-0. Pepperdine 3-2. Onyeka Okongwu had 33, and Colby Ross had 38. Pacific over Coppin State, 64-60. Pacific 5-2, Coppin 1-5. Hill Tripp had 21, and Dejuan Clayton had 21. Santa Clara over Notre Dame Dynamo, 101-54. Santa Clara 4-1, and DJ Mitchell had 14 to lead them. San Francisco over Cal State Bakersfield, 100-70. San Fran 5-0. Bakersfield 2-3. Raymond Rontanen had 19, and Cameron Allen had 15. Stanford over Maryland Eastern, 76-55. Stanford 5-0. UMass 0-5. Jaden Dallaire had 21, and Cannon Bartley had 10. Last but not least, number 25, Washington over Maine, 72-53. Washington 3-1. Maine 1-3. Isaiah Stewart had 16 for Washington, and Nedeljko Prijovic had 18 for Maine. Looking ahead to tonight, we already have a final, actually. Miami of Ohio over Central State, Ohio, 80-45. Miami of Ohio is now 3-1. Josh Brewer led them in scoring with 15. 6:30, Chattanooga, Florida State. 7 o'clock, South Carolina Upstate and number 2, Louisville. The two ACC schools should have no issue there. Alabama State at number 20, Tennessee. Tennessee should have no problem there. Bryant Drexel, Siena, Yale. Rider, UMass. Binghamton, NJIT. Savannah, Boston, Rutgers. Princeton, Indiana on the Big Ten Network. Eastern Washington, Boston College. Delaware State, Virginia Tech. Urbana, Wright State. Christendom, VMI. Columbia, St. John's. James Madison, Old Dominion. SEC Network Plus, Georgia Tech, Georgia. Georgia's favored by 5.5 over Georgia Tech. The best player on the court in this game is Anthony Edwards, and I think that Georgia will win and cover at home. Georgia Tech has been a nice little surprise so far with their upset win over NC State in the first night of the season. But I'm not convinced that this team is going to be very good in the long run. Georgia at least has a top 5 pick on their roster in Anthony Edwards, and I think he should be able to carry them to a win for Tom Crean and the rest of that team. Wagner, St. Peter's, Northern Kentucky, Ball State, 7:30, Latorno and Sam Houston State, Cornell, Syracuse, FAU, Florida Gulf Coast, Belmont, Lipscomb, 8 o'clock, ESPN 3, Little Rock at number 16, Memphis, Morris State in Missouri, Troy, Texas A&M, Austin P. Vanderbilt, Benedictine, Arizona, Northern Arizona, Mount St. Mary's, UAB, IUPUI, and Loyola, Chicago. You have Northern Iowa hosting the Cornell College Rams. Southeast Louisiana and Tulsa, High Point, St. Louis, North Park, Chicago State, 8:30, Elon at number 5, North Carolina. Carolina should have no issue there. Northern Illinois, Western Illinois, Sacramento State, UC Davis. That's a neutral site game. I believe that's being played at the Warriors' new arena. 9 o'clock, Big Ten Network, the Citadel in Illinois. Illinois should have no issue there. Arkansas State and Colorado State. 10 o'clock, Pac-12 Network, UC Santa Barbara and Oregon State. Texas State, UNLV, Grambling, San Jose State, CBS Sports Network, you have BYU and Boise. That's an interesting game. Two okay-ish mid-majors. I think that on a neutral, I'd pick BYU, but I'm going to take the Broncos minus the 1 at home. I don't feel strongly about it at all. I think BYU is probably the better team, but I think home court advantage will propel Boise a little bit here. Portland and Portland State, 11 o'clock, San Diego State and San Diego. And on ESPNU, you have St. Mary's and Fresno State from the Chase Center. St. Mary's is laying 8.5. I think St. Mary's should be able to win and cover the point spread. I'm not sold on Fresno State. They're 2-2. They're probably going to finish in the middle of the pack in the Mountain West this season. But St. Mary's is just the more talented team. I don't know how they lost that bye game to Winthrop. But I do think that they'll get a nice win here on national TV to remind people that they are a solid team from the WCC, and it's not just Gonzaga in that league. NBA, interesting results from yesterday. Not a big slate. There are only 4 games. We have the bigger slate tonight, which we'll get to. The Warriors defeated the Grizzlies 114-95. Golden State 3-12. Memphis 5-9. Alec Burks had 29 to lead the way for Golden State. John Morant had 20 for Memphis. Pelicans over the Trailblazers 115-104 in Carmelo Anthony's first game as a member of the Blazers. New Orleans is 5-9. Portland 5-10. Drew Holiday had 22. CJ McCollum had 22. And then Melo only had 10 points. And I think he only shot 4 for 14. Kings over the Suns 120-116. The Kings 6-7. Phoenix 7-6. Bogdan Bogdanovic had 31. And Devin Booker had 30. Lakers over the Thunder 112-107. Lakers 12-2. I believe that's the best record in the league. Oklahoma City 5-9. Anthony Davis was incredible. He had 34. Dennis Schroeder kept Oklahoma City in that game. He had 31 off the bench. And then LeBron James became the first player in NBA history to record a triple-double against every team in the NBA. Tonight at 7 o'clock, you have the Knicks at the 76ers, Spurs at the Wizards, 7:30 Magic at the Raptors, Bucks at the Hawks, Cavs at the Heat, Hornets at the Nets, ESPN, Warriors at the Mavericks. Dallas is laying 14. Speaking of triple-doubles, Luka Doncic has been a triple-double machine. The Warriors are on the second of a back-to-back. So the logical move is to take Dallas, but I think the point spread is too high. So I'm going to take a chance and take the plus 14 and say that the Warriors just sneak inside the number. I'm going to say that Dallas wins this game like 119-107. That would qualify as a Warriors cover. Pistons at the Bulls. Jazz at the Timberwolves. Those are 2 8 o'clock games. 9 o'clock Rockets at the Nuggets. And 10 o'clock ESPN Celtics at the Clippers. Clippers giving 5.5 on the road. Doc Rivers against his former team. There's a lot of ties between these two teams through the years. A lot of players that were on the Clippers were on the Celtics and vice versa, it seems like. And obviously Doc Rivers is the one that stands out. I think the Celtics will cover the 5.5. But I don't know if I have the balls to say that they're going to win outright. I'm not sure if Kawhi will be back for this game or not. I don't think so, because he's missed it the last couple games because of his injury. But if he's back, I would pick the Clippers to win. So I'm going to say the Celtics cover the number, but the Clippers win because of Paul George and home crowd. So I'm going to say the Clippers win one of the best regular season games of the season by a score of 113-110. I think that the 2 young guys from the Celtics, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, who both have made big leaps this season, will really keep the Celtics in this game, as well as Kemba Walker. Kemba Walker's good in big games. Those guys will keep the Celtics in it. I do think the Celtics can absolutely win the game outright. If Kawhi doesn't play, I do think the Celtics will win. But if Kawhi plays, Clippers win. But I think the Celtics cover this number regardless of Kawhi playing or not. I just think that's too high. Celtics are playing really good basketball. Clippers have been, I don't want to say disappointing, but they just have lost a lot of games that Kawhi is sad. And they didn't have Paul George the first couple weeks of the season. So I'm going to say the Celtics cover, but the Clippers probably win the game. In terms of a best play on the board, I'm going to take the Toronto Raptors minus the 3 at home against the Magic. I think this is a no-brainer. The Raptors have been killing everybody at home this year. Obviously, these two teams met in the playoffs last year. And Orlando beat them in Game 1 last year. But that's sort of irrelevant because some of the guys weren't on that Toronto team. Or weren't on that Orlando team, vice versa. And Kawhi was on Toronto back then. But I think Pascal Siakam will be the best player on the court tonight. I think the Raptors win this game by double digits. I'm very surprised that this line is only 3. I think the market, it really, especially Orlando on the road, is overvalued. Orlando at home, I got bit in the ass a few times for betting against Orlando. I think I took the Knicks against them. I think I took San Antonio against them. I took a couple times that Orlando was a home favorite against a team that I thought could cover the number. And then there was another one, I can't think. Was it Oklahoma City? Yeah, it was Oklahoma City. But Orlando on the road, I think, is overvalued. Orlando at home, I think, it's smart to play him, but they're on the road. Toronto's just great at home. Siakam, Lowry. Oh, no, Lowry's hurt. Gasol, Ibaka, Van Vliet, OG Anunoby's playing better. So give me the Raptors at home to, that's my lock of the night in the NBA, to go improve to 10-4 on the season. Now I'm going to talk some NHL hockey. Last night was a very busy slate. Tonight is a little bit of a slow slate. Wild over the Sabres 4-1. Minnesota's 8-11-2. Buffalo 10-8-3. What happened to the Sabres? That team got off to a fantastic start, and then they lost really bad to the Rangers. They really haven't been the same since. Zach Parise, number one star of the game with 2 goals. Number 2 star of the game with 30 saves on 31 shots. Alex Stalock, and number 3 with a goal and assist, Jason Zucker. Panthers over the Flyers 5-2. The Panthers 11-5-5, Philly 10-7-4. Number 1 star of the game with a goal and assist, Alexander Barkov. Number 2 star of the game with a goal and assist, Brett Connolly. Number 3 star of the game with the goal, Morgan Frost. Bruins over the Devils 5-1. Boston 13-3-5. New Jersey 7-9-4. Number 1 star of the game with 2 goals, David Pastrnak. Number 2 star of the game with 2 goals, Matt Grzelcyk. Number 3 star of the game with 25 saves on 26 shots, Tuukka Rask. Islanders came from behind by 2 goals late in the third period to win in overtime 5-4. Islanders 15 games in a row with a point, 15-3-1. Pittsburgh is 11-7-3. Number 1 star of the game with 2 goals and an assist, Brock Nelson. Number 2 star of the game with 2 goals, Brandon Tanev. Number 3 star of the game with 3 assists, Nick Leddy. Blue Jackets over the Canadiens 5-2. Columbus 8-8-4. Montreal 11-6-4. Number 1 star of the game with 2 goals and an assist, Pierre-Luc Dubois. Number 2 star of the game with 30 saves on 32 shots, Joonas Korpisalo. Number 3 star of the game with a goal and an assist, Emil Bemstrom. Senators over the Red Wings 4-3. Ottawa 9-11-1. Detroit 7-13-3. Ottawa's really overachieved this season. I can't believe that team is only 2 games under 500. Number 1 star of the game with 2 goals and assists, Anthony Duclair. Number 2 star of the game with 35 saves on 38 shots, Andres Nielsen. Number 3 star of the game with a goal, Juan Gabriel Pageau. He's been fantastic for Ottawa this year. Blues over the Lightning 3-1. St. Louis 13-4-5. Tampa Bay 9-7-2. Number 1 star of the game with a goal, Oscar Sundqvist. Number 2 star of the game with a goal, David Perron. Number 3 star of the game with an assist, Colton Parayko. Jets over the Preds 2-1. The Jets are 13-8-1. Nashville 9-8-3. What happened to Nashville, man? Surprised that they're only 9-8-3. Number 1 star of the game with 38 saves on 39 shots, Connor Hellebuck. Number 2 star of the game with a goal, Nikolaj Ehlers. Number 3 star of the game with a goal, Nick Bonino. Hurricanes over the Blackhawks 4-2. Carolina 13-7-1. Chicago 9-8-4. Number 1 star of the game with a goal and assist, Nino Niederreiter. Number 2 star of the game with 2 assists, Patrick Kane. Number 3 star of the game with a goal, Andrei Svechnikov. Stars over the Canucks 6-1. Dallas 12-8-2. Vancouver 10-8-4. Number 1 star of the game with a goal. 2 goals and an assist, Jamie Benn. Number 2 star of the game with a goal and assist, Miro Heiskanen. Number 3 star of the game with a goal and an assist, Justin Dowling. Avalanche over the Flames 3-2. Colorado 13-6-2. Calgary 10-11-3. Number 1 star of the game with 2 goals, Andrei Burakovsky. Number 2 star of the game with 2 assists, Nathan McKinnon. Number 3 star of the game with a goal, Derek Ryan. Golden Knights over the Leafs 4-2. Vegas 11-9-3. Toronto 9-10-4. Give me the Maple Leafs are under 500. Number 1 star of the game with 31 saves on 33 shots, Marc-Andre Fleury. Number 2 star of the game with a goal and assist, Cody Glass. Number 3 star of the game with a goal, Thomas Nosek. Oilers over the Sharks 5-2. Good win for Edmonton to snap the Stars' 6-game winning streak. Edmonton improves to 14-6-3. San Jose 10-11-1. Number 1 star of the game with a goal and 2 assists, Connor McDavid. Number 2 star of the game with 2 assists, Oscar Klefbom. Number 3 star of the game with 33 saves on 35 shots, Mikko Koskinen. All right. Only 2 games tonight on the slate. 8 o'clock NBC, SN, Capitals, Rangers. 7:30, Senators, Habs. But the big game is, like I mentioned, Caps Rangers from the Garden. Doc Emrick, Eddie Olczyk, Brian Boucher on the call. Best team in the league against a team that was quite frankly underachieved to start the season in the Rangers. The Rangers probably should be a little better than the record indicates. They've had a ton of injuries that they've overcome. Mika Zibanejad's still hurt. Capo Kakko might be coming back from having the flu today, so that should help them offensively. Henrik Lundqvist in goal. He's been up and down. Normally, I would pick the Capitals in the spot, but the Rangers in nationally televised home games this year really have showed up and played well. Like we saw against Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh and Detroit already this year. And I think this is another good opportunity for the Rangers to really showcase themselves. And Capo Kakko should be back. He'll give the offense a little bit of a boost. And I think the Capitals will get a rare loss. They have 36 points right now, and they have currently on a 2-game winning streak. And I think that comes to an end tonight as New York finally gets out of the tie of the cellar with New Jersey. They tie Columbus in the division. So give me the Rangers at home tonight to pull off a nice win for themselves. Now I'm going to go over last night's college football slate and look ahead to the 2 games that are tonight, both MACtion games. So last night, Eastern Michigan over Northern Illinois, 45-17. I was way off on this one in terms of a straight-up pick, but against the spread, I had the right idea. Eastern Michigan's eligible now at 6-5. Northern Illinois is done. They're 4-7. And Ohio over Bowling Green, 66-24. Ohio hit the over by themselves. So that under was a bad pick. Ohio's 5-6. Bowling Green is 3-8. And now tonight we have 2 games. On ESPNU, you have Akron at Miami of Ohio. And on ESPN2, you have Toledo against Buffalo on ESPN2. So 2 more MACtion games for you tonight. The ESPNU game, like I mentioned, was Miami of Ohio hosting Akron. Miami of Ohio is giving 31.5. The over-under is 44. I'm going to take the Red Hawks to cover because Akron is winless, or they're winless on the season, but they're 0-for against the spread as well. So give me Miami of Ohio to win this game by a score of 47-10. Toledo at Buffalo. Buffalo's giving 8. The over-under is 54. I think Buffalo wins the game, but I think Toledo covers the 8. I don't think Buffalo should be giving this many points against anybody that's somewhat competent in this conference. And I qualify Toledo as somewhat competent. Meanwhile, Bowling Green's not competent. Akron's not competent. But Toledo is at least competent, and I think that they can cover the number. I don't think they'll win, though. But I'm going to say that Buffalo gets it done by a score 31-27. So that would qualify as a cover for the Rockets of Toledo. Now I'm going to do my NFL power rankings for week number 12 of the NFL season. I'm going to go from 32 to 1 as I do each and every week. Number 32, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. Worst team in the league. They play the Steelers coming up on Sunday. 31 is the Washington Redskins. They come off a bad loss against the Jets. Coming up for them, they host Jeff Driscoll and the Lions in what is the worst game on the slate. Number 30, I have the Miami Dolphins. They had a bit of a reality check last week as they lost to Buffalo. Next up for them is at the Browns. 29, I have the New York Giants. Coming off a bye 2 weeks ago, they lost at home, on the road against the Jets, but it was a Jet home game, so it was basically sort of a road game for them. They share a stadium, obviously. Coming up for them, they face the Bears, possibly with Chase Daniel. 28, the Atlanta Falcons. Back-to-back wins in the division. Coming up is another division game as they host the Bucs. Number 27 is the New York Jets. Back-to-back wins for them against the bottom feeders of the NFC East. Coming up for them is the Oakland Raiders. 26 is the Denver Broncos. Competitive game with the Vikings that they probably should have won. Coming up for them is at the Bills. 25 is the Arizona Cardinals. Coming off a competitive game against the 49ers, a game that they probably should have won on the road. They have a bye coming up, so Kyler and company get a break. Number 24 is the Jacksonville Jaguars, coming off the loss against the Colts. They have the Titans in Tennessee this coming Sunday. Number 23 is the Tampa Bay Bucks, coming off the win. They're coming off a loss against the Saints. I'm thinking that they are coming off the Cardinals game, but no, they're coming off the loss against the Saints. I think that Bucks are a team that should be evaluating their quarterback position long term. Coming up for them, they are at the Falcons. 22 is the Detroit Lions. Interesting team. Jeff Driscoll is at the helm now. They're at Washington this week. Last week, obviously, they lost at home to the Cowboys. Number 21 is the Chicago Bears. Lost that game against the Rams. They pulled Mitch Trubisky out of the game. I think they're faking this injury. I think he's being benched. They host the Giants on Sunday. Number 20 is the Los Angeles Chargers. A very underachieving team. They lost against the Chiefs in Mexico City. Coming up for them is a bye. Number 19 is the Cleveland Browns. Coming off that emotional game over the Steelers and the fight. Coming up for them is the Dolphins at home. Number 18 is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They are a team that is kind of in limbo. They're in the playoff picture, but in reality, this team really shouldn't be. Coming up for them, they're at the Bengals. 17 is the Tennessee Titans. They've been a lot better than I expected this season. Ryan Tannehill is playing great. They host the Jaguars this week. 16 is the Carolina Panthers. Coming off a horrible loss at home against the Falcons. Coming up for them, they're at the Saints. 15 is the Oakland Raiders. They're playing great right now. Coming off win over the Bengals. Next up for them is at the Jets. Could be a trap game. 14 is the Buffalo Bills. Probably the most fraudulent 7-3 team over the last couple of years in terms of a team that is 4 games over 500 at the 10-week mark. Coming up for the Bills, they have the Broncos at home. 13 is the Philadelphia Eagles. Coming off the home loss against the Patriots. Was expected. What do you expect? Coming up for them, they host the Seahawks. 12 is the Rams. Coming off a win over the Chicago Bears. Next up for them, they are home for the Ravens on Monday Night Football. Should be a good game. Number 11 is the Indianapolis Colts. Coming off the win over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacoby Brissett's back. Next up for them, tomorrow night at Houston. And the Texans are actually my number 10. They're coming off a dreadful, dreadful loss at the Ravens. And they host the Colts tomorrow night. Number 9 is the Dallas Cowboys. They're a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde team to me. Some points they look good. Some points they don't. They will probably win that division. And we'll host the first-round game. And who knows, maybe they might be a home underdog in a playoff game. That'd be kind of interesting. Coming up for Dallas, their biggest game in terms of a regular season game in a long time as they go to Foxborough to take on the Patriots. Number 8 is the Kansas City Chiefs. Coming off the win against the Chargers. Didn't play all that great offensively. They're on a bye this week, so Patrick Mahomes can rest up a little bit. 7 is the Seattle Seahawks. They're playing very well. They just had that win over the 49ers, and then they had a bye week, and now they're at the Eagles. Number 6 is the Minnesota Vikings. They are coming off that win over Denver. Now they have a bye. Number 5 is the New England Patriots. Yes, I dropped the Patriots to 5. They weren't all that impressive in the Eagles game. I probably should have dropped them last week or last time I did this, but I didn't have the balls to do it. And I know that I would have had somebody else at number 1 had I done the power rankings after they lost to the Ravens. Coming up for them, they host Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. Number 4 is the Green Bay Packers. They are coming off a bye. Next up for them at San Francisco. And San Francisco is number 3, who are coming off that come-from-behind win against the Cardinals. They host the Packers on Sunday Night Football this week. That game got flexed into Sunday night, and they moved Seattle-Philly to the 1 o'clock slate, which would have been the Sunday night game, but they moved it because the Packers are much better than expected, and the 49ers are a lot better than expected. And that, to me, was not a knock on Russell Wilson or the Eagles. I just think that they wanted to give the Packers and the 49ers an opportunity on a lonely stage. Number 2, I have the New Orleans Saints. They're playing some good football, with the exception of that game against Atlanta. Good bounce-back win over the Bucs. Next up for them, they host the Panthers. And number 1, the Baltimore Ravens. Nobody has played better than the Ravens over the last couple weeks. They upset the Patriots. They destroy the Bengals in Cincinnati, and then they destroy a good Texans team at home. Next up for them, they're at the Rams in a game that they're actually a road favorite. I didn't think they'd be favored in that game. I thought the Rams would be favored. But, hey, the Ravens should be favored in that game. They would be favored on the neutral, and I think it's a great opportunity for Lamar Jackson on another primetime stage to show that he is among the favorites for the league MVP award. Before I go to Best Bet, quick NASCAR news. I don't normally talk about NASCAR on the podcast, but this is pretty significant because this is involving one of the best drivers that the sport has seen ever, perhaps. Jimmy Johnson, who's 44 years old, announced his retirement today and said that 2020 will be his final season. He's somebody that has won a ton of championships in his career. Obviously drives the Lowe's 48 car, Hendricks Motorsports. He has 83 wins. He's just one of the best drivers you'll ever see. The driver of the year in 2006, 7, 9, 2010, 2013. He's just among one of the best drivers you'll see in the sport. Kyle Busch won the Monster Energy Cup Series title this year, and he won the big race at Homestead, Miami to close out the season. And you won't see NASCAR again until February when they start up at Daytona. So it should be an interesting season for Johnson. And I wish him the best. Like I said, one of the best drivers you'll ever see. And he's somebody that really is going to go down as one of the greatest drivers to ever do the sport. So congratulations to him. And Best Bet of the Day brought to you by DraftKings. Some interesting games for you on the docket. We're going to go to college basketball. We'll go with Florida State. We'll go with Old Dominion. Avoiding St. John's because they lost to Vermont the other day. Syracuse, Memphis, Missouri, A&M, UAB, Tulsa, Colorado State, Oregon State. And then we'll go to college football. Wow, the Miami of Ohio There's no even money line for that. So I guess we'll go to the NBA and go with the 76ers over the Knicks, and then we'll go with the Mavs over Golden State. So that's 137. Putting down $5, payout of $11.87. That's it for the podcast today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping NBA, NHL, college basketball, college football. Ahead to tomorrow, I'll pick the Thursday night game between the Texans and the Colts. And I promise tonight, or maybe even this afternoon, you'll hear my off-season baseball predictions podcast. I'm trying to get some guests on for next week for Thanksgiving games and have some fun. I'm going to try to get Nick Costos on. We'll try to get Jake Brown on, maybe Derek, maybe even a couple other surprises along the way. You never know. I hope you guys have a great day, everybody.